Oh, yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Firm Report, brought to you by Exalts Marketing. I am Pat Hilton, and this is Zach Hoffman. Welcome to the Monday edition. How you doing, Zach? What's up?
Doing well. Happy Monday, man.
Happy Monday. We're back in the groove.
Toasty out there.
Little toasty out here. Hey, you know, we got a little AC unit that needs a little work, but hey, I've had bigger problems, like I said. The beautiful thing is the internet is running. Life is good, and we're connecting with people all over the world once again. So here we are.
For sure. Yep. Well, definitely, yeah, man. It's we're hot here in the days of summer, man. It's all started. So we got three topics in the hopper that, the normal form that we go down. So we're going to talk about them today. We'll hit on those 100 deadliest days of summer, starting over here on Memorial Day and then working our way through the summer, all the holidays, all the increases that typically are seen in accidents and injuries. Then we'll talk about some moat creation, really creating like assets and contents that, creating that proverbial moat around your business that keeps your competitors out. And then also looking at just look at your firm, look at your business from the consumer's eye. A lot of business owners are typically, I would say like a little bit tunneled in on how they see things, but not necessarily looking at it from like a consumer's perspective. So that's also very important when you're looking at, just your firm's website, your firm's digital presence, social media, what you're doing in the marketplace and why a consumer would actually engage or interact with your firm.
Absolutely. And I mean, as I was traveling this past week, I saw Morgan & Morgan signs. I saw more and more personal injury signs. Now that I'm looking for it, we've been discussing it. We've been looking at how they target their demographics. A lot of people driving on the highway. Obviously, people are on their phones on the highway. There's accidents. I'm starting to see more and more standout advertisements from these firms.
Where are you traveling to?
So I was in Scottsdale this past week, and then I was in Anaheim the week before. So I saw Morgan & Morgan in both places.
Southern California.
California and Scottsdale, Arizona. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're seeing them everywhere.
And it's like, it's like now that, it's just like you say, I want the white Honda Civic. And then you start seeing white Honda Civics everywhere. We're talking about Morgan & Morgan's everywhere, and now I'm just seeing it now. I'm like, wow, they really are everywhere.
Unfortunately, some of those cars that I want, I just don't see them everywhere.
Well, yeah, me either. The white McLaren, I never see that one except in my head.
So those California splatters,
Yeah.
I don't see them everywhere. The classic, some of the classic rides, just not seeing them everywhere.
Yeah, they're hard to find sometimes, but they're in our heads.
Hey, when I close my eyes or I go to a car show, I see them.
That's right. And so it's awesome, man. It's awesome to see it out there. And I think that if we can help people recognize that when they're out there driving or when they're out there marketing their products, it's going to be beneficial to them as well.
No, for sure. But definitely, so getting to the 100 deadliest days of summer and just like that period of 100 days where there's just increased accidents, increased situations where people would actually care about what happens as a result of like family traveling with them, or just like other reasons that, they have certain passengers in the car where an accident or injury means a lot more. Definitely these 100 days, this block that you have, I would say the consumer's ears are more like wet to like actually wanting to hear about, some related safety topics and how they could, control themselves over the summer, and play that into your message, especially as like an injury firm. Even if you're, talking about safety when it comes to swimming pools or just, normal everyday activities that people might be engaging in, making sure that they're safe when they're doing these things. And then when they actually get into harm's way or injured, there's the ability to then, turn the messaging around on them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's awesome to see just the amount of opportunity that's out there for connectivity. I think connectivity is a big word with social media. We hear virality and going viral and all this stuff, but we see so many viral influencers that aren't making any money. Because they're playing with lotion and eyeliner and stuff instead of really offering a service and a competitive
you even
package.
See it on some of the law firms. Like there's some major I wouldn't even call them major firms. There's some injury firms or just firms in general with like high social media engagement or a lot of followers, it doesn't mean they're getting end clients. It doesn't even mean that they're
Right.
making an impact in their market. And sometimes they're just talking a message to a national audience when they only serve Georgia or they only serve like Southern California, but yet they're on social media talking to everybody in the world and getting likes. Like, congratulations.
Right.
Last time I checked, followers don't deposit into the bank. So, unless you find a way to like convert it, I'd rather be converting 100 of the right people than talking to 1,000 people and getting, a little tickle of, emotion to like, I guess, float your own ego in a lot of ways. Reality is business is business. You got to make money with the
Yep.
content.
Yeah, totally. And you have to figure out a way to communicate with people in a way that they can digest. I think for
Oh,
business
for
owners,
sure.
that's the hardest part. They're knowledgeable. They're very good at what they do. They've done it for a long time, but they have a hard time communicating what they do and how they can serve someone on video or on social media or on podcasts. And that's what separates the big guys and the elite guys from everyone else is that they're great at communicating it. Morgan and Morgan knows how to hop on. If they were on our show right now, they could go easily 45 minutes to an hour with us about all kinds of ways that they market that's different than everyone else.
Yeah, and there's, just involving yourself in the community and positioning yourself there. They're probably amazed at how many markets they enter where there's, proverbial like local leaders that just aren't even like, engaged in local sports teams, local billboards, like locally where people are actually doing business or transacting, from a respect of what they do. It's there's also a lot of opportunities right now when you're actually in your market, if like an event does happen or if there's like a major accident, to go out there and actually do content and press releases and even social media posts about the actual incident. That'll help you build, I would say it would help you build like relationship with like algorithms for search engine positioning as well as AI. So we're seeing like a strong signal with that. So like the more recent you're getting with information or content, that we're seeing the search engines and AI engines like, look at your firm a little bit more particular. So if you know of a particular accident that happened on like a major highway, like get out there and start to produce content about that information because it's going to give you an interconnection into your local area, as well as to potential consumers that were impacted by that injury or accident. Typically, what's found through a lot of like road studies in general is where one accident happens, there's going to be another accident. The accidents and injuries don't just, typically happen at random locations. They're typically happening on a repeat basis at a particular roadway.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that that's why when I saw the Morgan and Morgan stuff, it was on two of the biggest highways in the entire United States. It was in the loop going in between the airport and Scottsdale in
Yeah.
Phoenix, and then it was in between like Anaheim and LA, right there on the Highway 5 is where I saw
Mhm.
both of them. Those are two of the major highways like in those areas. I mean, Highway 5
For
is,
sure.
you can't even get anywhere unless you use the Highway 5 in Southern California.
I mean, look, billboards are continuing to be a strong medium in a lot of ways. I mean, they're very hard to ignore. They're very hard to like necessarily like predict based on a socio
It
demo.
was
Like,
hard to
you,
miss.
people are going to be seeing them, and while there's still statics and vinyls out there in the marketplace, I strongly encourage people to be investing in them. Digitals, I'm still a little on the fence about. The digitals definitely favor the broker. They favor the house in a lot of ways, but the vinyls and the static elements, while they're still available, are definitely, huge to come by. I mean, if you're being sold digitals, you better be getting a lot of like remnant slash free inventory versus just, paying a premium for those positions.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of pieces out there, and I think that you just have to be at a certain level to be able to even use a billboard. I mean, you would know more about that than me because you've done them. I've never done that kind of marketing.
Yeah, we've used them to build up exalts and definitely, get messages out there in our marketplace. Look, they definitely do work. I would say every form and every, aspect of media does work in particular ways, but yeah, you definitely, it's an investment. Yeah, it's the challenge with, some business owners is they'll do a campaign or such, and maybe their creative sucks or whatever it is, and it doesn't work for them, but they don't really, if their creative was only better, at least they would walk away with some, brand equity and not necessarily have such like buyer's remorse of something not working. If they left any impression, it does, favor them into the future.
Absolutely. I mean, you got to go out there and do something. What do we got on the hopper
For
today,
sure.
Zach?
So definitely, as we go forward, creating a moat. So like moat creation, essentially buying assets or creating content or particular things that it would take a competitor a long time to overcome are definitely, critical to do. I think a lot of firms out there get comfortable with their phone number or particular like domain name or even, the content that they're producing, and they don't say, could I be doing this better or is this enough? There's a lot of things to continue to evolve into the future, especially into 2025. I think one of the biggest culprits right now, I would say from vanity phone numbers perspective, these alphanumeric numbers, I definitely just, it's a strong pet peeve of mine that, people actually think that consumers are looking down at these phones are matching up letters to numbers, and that's a vanity number in today's market. Yeah, vanity numbers in today's market are a lot of repeaters or, essentially having like a numeric pattern, not necessarily, a word like within, because once again, I don't know that I would say a strong, it's a simple bet for me to say that over half of consumers don't know how to match up letters to a number on a cell phone.
Oh,
What would you
yeah.
say?
I hate it when people do that. 1-800. Yeah, if you were like 1-800 Zach, I'd be like, oh my gosh, what is that? Just
Yeah,
give me the
like
numbers.
yeah, 1-800 da 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 free. I'm like, really, like what? Like that left an impression on who? But if it's like 800-222-2222, like
Way
that's
easier to
something
remember. I
that,
already know it better.
yeah.
I'll remember it all
Yeah.
day, especially if you sing it to me.
Yeah, a bunch of repeaters, yeah, all
Give it
day,
to me.
definitely. And if you question it, if you're the attorney and you're like questioning, like, is my phone number good? It's probably not that good. You probably, you'll know if you have like that, strong number. You'll know if you have that memorable area code with the repeaters that everybody knows, or even a toll-free number still
I
works
mean,
in
is
today's
is it
environment.
ringing or not?
What's
Is
that?
the phone ringing or not? So,
Is the phone ringing or not? I mean, look, the phone's always going to be ringing. It's just like when you're investing in that traditional media or other forms of the digital media where you're getting your number out there or just repeating your message, you want it to be memorable. And that's,
right.
one of the key instances of it. And plus, if you're running a bunch of mediums, there's no shortage of vanity tracking numbers that you could be acquiring in your marketplace. So you don't need to just
Hmm.
necessarily bank off one number. I mean, look, I would say some like marketing firms might be like, oh yeah, just market this one number, market this one vanity number. We're in 2025. Buy 5 to 10 badass numbers and rotate them with different mediums and start to like get a gauge as to what may or may not be working or having like more of a direct response check off as you move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you got to be prepared to be available. I think one of the
Oh, for
problems
sure.
people have, and I see this all over social media, is everybody working to not work is this new thing. And I love that again, I'm bringing up Morgan and Morgan again, because you said Papa Morgan's still doing ads, still doing this, still speaking on camera. He's got the trust of the entire industry. And
Oh,
you
for
can't
sure.
buy that trust. That trust is
Yeah,
earned.
yep.
And so
No,
these
he's
people that are
definitely
trying
still
to
moving the
work their
needle.
way out of the company, or I'm working to not work, or you got to replace yourself. Well, be careful to doing that too quickly, because you also want to be authentic and you want to be trustworthy and you want to make sure that you can fulfill. And so some of those duties,
Correct.
while you do want to hand them off, you want to make sure that people are getting the experience that they're paying for. And again, so
Oh,
those
yeah.
companies are making sure you're going to get that same experience. You're going to get Mama and Papa and the whole brand that we've been building all these years, you're going to get that. And they
Correct.
make that very clear. And now I'm seeing it because, again, you've identified this in my head and I'm seeing it everywhere now. No wonder everybody
Well,
knows
yeah,
who these people are and buy their stuff.
well, it's also, when people start to like check themselves out of the box. I mean, right now, you're in a moment in history where you have to be more checked in than ever before
Yep.
with the proliferation of AI and what it's doing to just markets and how white collar workers, especially in the legal field, should and could be working. I mean, it's a total game changer. And if you're checked out of your firm and you're not processing cases, you're probably paying exponentially more to process a case than, one of your largest competitors. I know, from paying attention to like what Sweet James is doing out in the marketplace, they're very dialed in on AI and they are crushing a lot of markets and becoming one of the largest firms in the country.
Hmm.
And you still have a lot of naysayers saying like, oh, is AI work? Or can I use AI? Is it really applicable to my firm and my practice? Like, hello, yes, AI is definitely very, practical and definitely going to make a big change, and difference. There's definitely, a young attorney that's graduating right now that's been utilizing AI to get through law school that will literally probably crush your traditional model in a lot of
Totally.
ways by being able to process, information a lot more efficiently and, do a lot of things on the back end to make themselves a lot more competitive than, I'd say old guard that's just kind of like ignoring it and going back to the library at this stage.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just one of those things that you have to know how to navigate. Listen, like we said, you either buy the skill set that someone brings to the table or you buy the
Yeah.
experience or you bring them both together. And there's no way around it. You got to have skills, you got to have experience, and you have to have a real deliverable or a service in 2025. The days of just selling air to people are gone because people are smarter now than they've ever been. Google reviews, website case studies, all these examples of what someone has done are now available. And so it's easy to price match. It's easy to compare. It's easy to get multiple quotes. We talked about the AC thing today. We got the AC units got some, we got some home warranty thing. Well, we're going to figure out what the best way to go is on that and get it handled. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's very easy. Whereas back in the day, you felt like you only had one option.
Yeah. The yellow pages.
Well, yeah. And I even talk about that with music. Back in the day, it was like, well, you were only going to listen to what they gave you on the radio, especially in the early 90s. There was no
Or
real
whatever. Yeah.
independent access. Now, everybody's got a business. Everybody's got a service. Everybody's a rapper or in a band or an influencer. Anybody can put a website up and say they're a law marketing firm, but are they really
look,
as
yeah,
good as Zach
there's a
Hoffman,
lot of
who's
like,
been around? You know what
yeah,
I
I mean,
mean?
look, yeah, there's a lot of like anybody can, but there's also like if you look at the amount of anybody cans that have been successful versus, those that are kind of like backed by like infrastructure
Mm,
and distribution, infrastructure and distribution, like working with an experienced firm typically is going to win over,
right.
that kind of like one-off situation.
Totally.
Structure definitely will beat, just willy-nilliness, I say, over time. Not even a question.
Absolutely. What else we got on the hopper?
Yeah, to go forward, I'd say, the last topic we got here is, really looking at your business from a consumer lens, the consumer that you're targeting, making sure that your messaging is really crisp in respect of like what they actually want to see, and looking at it, maybe against your top three competitors and what you're doing and what you're not doing, and how you could be more effective from a messaging and just like an evolution perspective to stay top of mind and to stay as like I would say like a market leader. It's always good to do those like self-evaluations. I do it with our accounts all the time, kind of like looking at like, hey, if I was coming back in here, or if, I was coming at this day one, what would I be doing differently, or how would I approach this to really get it to the next level? And that's how you see the biggest changes in a game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you said it at 100%. And I think that what we do here is we try to promote consistency and authenticity. At the end of the day, people are going to go and they're going to do business with people they know, they like, and they trust. Well, they're also going to do business with people that when the doors are closed and people are talking and the cameras aren't on, what are people saying about you? And this can
Yeah.
be a weapon that plays to your advantage or to your disadvantage. Because there's a lot of people, like you said, there's a lot of anybody can do's out there. And usually those aren't the people that get recommended when people are sitting around a table talking about who am I going to do business with. It's the person
Well,
that's
there's
been
definitely,
around.
you gotta build brand up there, and you gotta have some brand equity. You gotta have, some of the things that we've been discussing. Looking at like memorable assets, having emotive content, having, information that when somebody is looking for a solution or they're looking like, they have this once in a lifetime, scenario that they have to address or once in every 3 to 5 years. that you're top of mind for all the right reasons and that you've made a brand impression upon them so that they're, ready to go.
Right. Yeah, I think that's the game. You got to be ready to go, man. I love it.
I mean, it's, you look at like a lot of like marketing and advertising from a lot of law firms in the marketplace, and, some of it's just a little too bloated in a lot of ways. And you got to see even the largest national brands in the world are not bloated in their communication and advertising. They're getting really dialed into their consumer to make sure they're hitting the nail on the head. So when somebody wants to work with them, that they know they're making the right investment with the right partner.
Dude, I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Firm Report brought to you by Exalts. Pat Hilton and Zach Hoffman live on Mondays. If you have any questions, please click on Zach's name, click on my name, send us a message. We've got a website coming. We're going to have all the episodes on there. We're going to keep these coming and, maybe even bring some guests on, Zach. I still think we can get Papa Morgan on the show. Papa Morgan.
We'll see.
Pat's inviting you on the show.
We'll see who we get on the show.
If Zach fires me after this episode, you know why. But I think that he would come on. I think we could get him. He seems like he's a nice guy. So go out there and be a leader, folks. Be everywhere. Be awesome and be great. We will see you on the next one.
Have a great one.